Director Mike Flanagan has added to his haunting universe with the new Netflix original series, The Haunting of Bly Manor. It's just in time for Halloween, but should you be binging it? A young au pair is hired to care for 2 young children at a family estate. Soon after arriving, she starts to experience strange occurrences, and a grim history begins to unravel. So let's get this out of the way right at the very beginning. Yes, Mike Flanagan directed this, and he has adapted a bunch of different horrors for the screen, including The Haunting of Hill House. And yes, there are some of the actors that worked on that production in The Haunting of Bly Manor. And that's not unusual because we know that directors tend to find favorite actors that they want to work with over and over again. And so that's the case here. The Haunting of Bly Manor is an adaptation of The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. So this is going to be completely different from Hill House. It's a different author, written in different centuries, and so to compare the two isn't going to be fair to either of them. And it's also good to note that Bly Manor is not a sequel to Hill House. Now this is a gothic horror, and we have seen The Turn of the Screw done in many different adaptations on the screen over the course of the years. The way this works is that it's a story being retold to us by a narrator. In the show, Carla Gugino is the narrator, and she is attending a wedding and is encouraged by some of the guests to tell a ghost story. I'm really impressed by the acting in this. All of them turn in some really good performances, but there are several standouts that either due to story arcs or just story time or just what the narrative itself demands, few rise to the top and really impressed me. Victoria Pedretti, Tania Miller, Raul Coley, and Amelia Bay Smith are the standouts to me. And the others, I'm not discounting their performances, but these 4 were just exceptional to me. So this is a gothic horror. Is it scary? Did it creep me out? Did I jump or did I get the willies? There are parts that did creep me out a bit, but I wouldn't say it's overly scary. And I think you got to see most of the scary parts in the trailer. They did reserve some for the rest of the show though. But this is dark. The underlying storyline that isn't really fully revealed until later in the show is disturbing but enjoyable. And for this to truly be a gothic horror, there needs to be some element of a love story, or a love lost, or an unrequited love. There are multiple storylines throughout the show that do surround love. I love how they blossomed over the course of the story. I mean, they weren't abruptly sprung on us and they just didn't come out of nowhere. We truly get to watch them develop, and that's what sucked me into it. The visuals of the show, the music, the settings are all done really well. Each of the elements builds on each other to create this environment that is slightly oppressive and tense. I do believe the pace of the show is uneven. I mean, I like how they uncovered parts of the story, but some of it felt very determined, and so at a pace that is just moving along, and then other times it is almost at an abrupt stop. I personally would have preferred a slow burn or one that just steadily ramped up as the story went along. And there are parts that do both of that, but just it feels a little bit weird because sometimes we're moving along and then we just kind of drag a little bit and then go again, and then we have a steady burn. It's kind of all, and that's what I mean. It's uneven. At first I thought that there might be small parts of the story or of the narrative itself that could have been trimmed to maybe make it move a little bit faster or at least at a better pace. But the more I thought about it, to do so would cut down on some of the impact on the storylines. I mean, we have to be taken on this journey with the characters. I mean, that's the point of it, that we have to be sucked in to the story that is being told to us. And in order to do so, we have to know some mundane details. We have to know some things that might be a little bit boring, but they build on the overall picture of everything that's going on. There's 9 episodes in this show, and at the 7th episode, I really felt like it was wrapping up. And I actually wondered aloud, I was like, what are they going to do for the next 2 hours, the next 2 episodes? Because it feels like it's done here. Well, I'm glad that they continued on because they showed us more and more detail. They allowed for some really good story resolution and character resolution to come in those last 2 episodes. And it filled in some small gaps that may have been missing or that you may have been wondering about or that you didn't even realize that you were missing, and then once hearing it, felt like, oh wow, okay, that was really satisfying to get that bit of information because now I have a much larger picture and it's even more dark. So each episode is a little under an hour, and I think as long as you don't go in expecting this to be a sequel to Hill House, then you can get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's a great gothic tale, it's told really well, and the acting is exceptional. I had a lot of fun with this, despite some of the story unevenness. I especially loved the darkness of the story, and am thankful that it didn't rely on scary visuals. The storytelling itself was dark, and it was disturbing, and it became oppressive, and that's what sucked me in. And so it's not your traditional horror. This is done in the mind. This is done with what we see, but nothing jumping out at you. Not all kind of blood and guts or any type of like that. It's truly that gothic horror storytelling. There's no sex or nudity, some profanity, and a lot of violence. I give The Haunting of Bly Manor 4.5 out of 5 couches. So have you been looking forward to this? If you've already seen it, what did you think? Without giving any spoilers away, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.